All right. So, what are your guys' names?
I'm Parker. That's Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long you guys been surfing in Rhode Island?
Over 50 years.
Yeah, me, I'm not quite that old, probably 40 years, I guess you might say.
Yeah. How old were you when you started surfing? You think?
I was 14.
14. And
Yep.
were you living down here?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Where was the first spot you went surfing that you can?
First time I paddled out was in Matunic, right in front of the Ocean Mist.
Yeah. how
Last
about you?
year I paddled out one morning and I thought about it. I started counting up and realized it had been 50 years that I'd been surfing that spot. And I'm not that great, but I have a lot of fun.
How about you, Pat?
First time I ever paddled on a surfboard and stood up was right down the end, right in Narragansett Beach. My brother, back in the 60s, he had an old boardy, longboard, and he helped me, just gave me a shove, and I stood up. So that was actually the first time that I'd ever actually stood on a surfboard. You know, like Park said, you know, we've been surfing a long time, never been superstars, but it's still a gas. You know, it's like going fishing. You don't have to catch 100 fish, you don't have to catch the biggest fish, but that's how I look at it. I enjoy it, and probably through the 70s and part of the 80s, you know, I used to go all winter long, and when I had a couple of kids, I wasn't around. I was busy raising a family, so I didn't have that much time. But about 5 or 6 years ago, my wife kind of gave me the shove to start going again, and now I'm kind of right back at it. You know, like Park was saying, not superstars, but it's a lot of fun, especially in the winter. There's something about going out when it's cold. But I'll tell you, there's some guys that are around South County, you know, that have been, you know, these guys are in their 60s and they still, you know,
Right. Yeah.
these guys still surf like when they were 20, and you know, my hat's off to them, because you know, guys like Dave Zubek, Dave Levy, those guys, they drop in on this in their 60s, and they drop in on waves at the lighthouse. Last year I saw Zuby dropping on a wave. It had to be 2 or 3 times overhead, and it connected all the way from the Point Judith Lighthouse right to Connet Avenue. And on my way out of there, I offered him a ride back with a surfboard, but he refused because he wanted to just think about how long he had just ridden that wave. I'd never seen anything like it. It's pretty wild. The day before New Year's, yeah, I caught a wave down toward Point Judith, and I paddled out with a couple other guys, and it was probably the best wave I've caught in a long time. And they're kind of you know, they're kind of sparse. So and it was just I turned around, and it worked out well. And I figured it wasn't going to get any better than that this year. So I paddled in, and my hair was still dry under my wetsuit. It was pretty good, you know. Those are the ones you remember.
How about you, Parker? You got any surfing in the winter time stories like that?
Yeah, there are a lot of them. My best this last year was last summer. It was warm. It was a tequila sunrise in Matunic. No wind. It was glassy. The forecast had called for flat waves, and I just wanted to get wet. And it was 4 to 5 feet, glassy. None of with the advent of the internet now, everybody can go online and see what's going on, and people come in from Connecticut, New York. And this wasn't forecasted, and it was one of those situations where you had to be there. And it was me and 2 kids were out there. They were sharing boards, and I took off on this one wave, and I stood on the nose, and it seemed like forever. These kids were screaming at the top of their lungs. They were like, "Mister, that was fantastic!" And it was all I needed to hear. It's like, great. I got out of the water and went to work.
Before the end of this thing, I'd like to pay homage to a couple of guys that I've known for a long time who lost their lives this year. Randy Gimbalvo and Joe McGovern. Joe McGovern was a photographer. He photoed for Surfline, and those guys unfortunately went way too early. They're real good guys, both of them. You got to take note of that kind of stuff.